Hey everyone, it's Stasha Erickson, a long time no see and speak. And my last video that I made, I let you guys know I have a lot on my plate. I just became a resident of Norway, and I'm also on my fourth and final year of my bachelor's in psychology degree. So it's been a lot of immigration stuff and a lot of school on top of everything else. And now I have about 1 year to take Norwegian language classes and become completely fluent in the language so that when my bachelor's degree is complete, I can actually be a psychologist and therapist to people here in Norway and be able to not only understand them, but also be able to communicate with them. So I've got a lot going on. And like I said, I don't have a lot of time for YouTube, but when I feel the calling and the time is right, I will definitely come in and chime in and share some stuff with you guys. So I mentioned in my last video that I had a lot of requests for people asking me to do a video about the Hollow Earth. Now, before you watch this video, I just ask everybody to be totally open-minded. There is really no way to prove Hollow Earth thus far. There's a lot of theories, and there's been a lot of explorers, such as Admiral Byrd, who I wrote about in my first book, Diary of an Asset, who said he actually had traveled through the North Pole and had experienced this place to be true. There's two different sides to the Hollow Earth coin. There is the side where people have received kind of channeled messages from beings that are living within the Hollow Earth themselves. And then there's the other side of the coin, which is a little bit darker and it connects to like Hitler and Nazi Germany and a lot of the explorations that happened with the Nazis, and that they had actually gone into Hollow Earth as well and had met up with the society known as the Vril Society and created these spaceships called the Haunebu crafts. And the Haunebu were known to go in and out of either the South or the North Pole and did expeditions and kind of worked with these people. Now, today, I'll make a separate video about that side of things because it's a little bit darker. But for today's video, I wanted to focus more on the more spiritual aspects of the Hollow Earth. I have a very old friend of mine. Her name is Diane Robbins. She's like what you would know as a first waver. She kind of awoken spiritually a long time ago. Um, my spiritual awakening happened in 2011 through 2012. And when I first awakened, I was kind of drawn to Diane's work because she had written several books about the topic of Hollow Earth. And I'm still friends with her today. I was just wishing her a happy birthday a couple of weeks ago. And the wonderful thing about Diane is that she allows all of her books and all of her content to be shared freely. She doesn't ask for copyright permission or anything like that. She does this solely out of her belief of the Hollow Earth, the beings that live there, and her love for bringing light to this topic. So once I had checked with Diane for permission to share this, I thought it was really important that I share with you a little bit about her book on the Hollow Earth. So essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through some of her book and just kind of leave it up for you guys to decide and use your own intuition and tell me what you think. A lot of this research has been difficult for me to absorb. The last class that I finished for my degree, or the most recent class I finished, was in physics. And in physics and science, it kind of goes against everything that Hollow Earth enthusiasts believe. So it's been difficult for me to be in this degree program and have to write all these, research papers saying that the Earth is solid and that things are the way that science taught us and everything NASA taught us is real. But there's a really deep intuition within me that says there's a lot more to the surface and to the inside of the earth. So again, I'm not saying I completely am on board with everything about the myths and theories of the Hollow Earth, but I definitely think there's something to it. So I just want to educate you guys a little bit and share with you Diane's work. So I'm just going to dive right into it for you all and just tell me what you think. So Diane's book is known as The Messages from the Hollow Earth or Messages from the Hollow Earth. And again, her name is Diane Robbins. I will share with you all of her information so you can check her out. Let me just get right into it. Oh, the other book she wrote is called Telos, Original Transmissions from the Subterranean City Beneath Mount Shasta. She has another book called The Call Goes Out from the Cetacean Nation, and another book called Tree Talk. And her website is www.diane, with a capital D, Dianne, and then Robbins, capital R, ROBBINS.com. So you can check her out there. Now, let's see, we got some acknowledgments and thanks, and I'll scroll through that. There's a lot of really great quotes and people who read the book and gave reviews that are just amazing. The contents of her book are she has an introduction that gets into all the basics of the Hollow Earth. The second part is talking about the Library of Porthologos. The third part of the book is called Our Galactic Connection. The fourth part of the book is called Space Portals and Travel. The fifth part is about free energy and abundance. The sixth part is about technology. Seventh part is about uncovering our existence. The eighth part is about time, telepathy, and consciousness. Ninth part is cures for pollution and diseases. And the 10th part is evolution is the solution, 9/11/2001. So that refers to the 9/11 tragedy. The 11th part is called our immortality. 12th part is about our oceans and beaches. 13th part is about food and elements of nature. 14th chapter is about our environment and the weather. Chapter 15 is about our homes. Chapter 16 is about DNA and inner doors of consciousness. And chapter 17 is about synchronicity, imagination, and rebirth. Chapter 18 is about the earth and crystals. Chapter 19 is about the Confederation of Planets. Chapter 20 is about ascension. You can see she's very extensive here. Chapter 21 is called Reunion, a Swift Journey in Consciousness. Chapter 22 is called How to Connect with Us, being the inner earth beings. Chapter 23 is Earth's Glorious Future. And then finally, chapter 24 is called Addenda. All right, so it's about a 210-page book, so it's quite extensive. I'm going to share with you guys excerpts from chapter 1. So I'm going to start with her introduction, which is the preface to the book, so people can kind of understand where Diane's coming from. So she says, not too long ago, humanity believed that the world was flat and that the sun revolved around the earth. Humanity was so sure of this that it became what is known as an established fact. And again, this is where scientists will disagree, and many flat earthers might disagree as well. But this is, the mystery of life. Now, when Galileo presented evidence that proved the earth revolved around the sun, he was not only ridiculed, but he was imprisoned because his findings were such a radical departure from accepted thought. A similar situation exists today with the new revelation that the earth is hollow at its core. Hollow Earth researchers have presented evidence based on their research of how planets are formed, that our Earth is not solid as our textbooks have taught us to believe. This book is about the greatest revelation in history by stating that not only is the Earth's core hollow, but it is inhabited by highly evolved human beings who are communicating their existence to us. That's the thing. Many people believe this book is like transmitted by aliens or angels, and then on the Christian side of things, people would call them demons. But from Diane's research, these are literal human beings. So it's not as far-fetched as some people would assume. Now, the last part of the preface says is, will humanity be open to this new revelation about the earth, or will they ridicule it because it is not in our textbooks? And the preface was written by Lawrence Frank back in March of 2003. Now, here's a word from the author, Diane. In the early 1990s, I read a newsletter about a woman named Sharula who was born in Telos, which is a subterranean city located beneath Mount Shasta, California, and who came to our surface in the 1960s. She now lives in Santa Fe, New Mexico with her husband, Shield. In the years before moving to Santa Fe, she was known in the Mount Shasta area as Bonnie. So this is a living, breathing human being, not an angel, not a channeled spirit guide, nothing like that. She's a real woman who lives there today. Now, in Sharula's newsletter, she wrote about life in Telos and about the other subterranean cities that exist beneath the Earth's surface. She wrote about the ascended master and high priest of Telos named Adama, just like Adam of the Bible. Now, shortly after my reading about Adama, he contacted me telepathically and asked me if I would take his messages. You see, our thoughts go out into the universe and instantly connect us to whomever we think about. Now, I myself have studied telepathy at great detail. I have telepathy with animals. I wrote a book about that called "How to Talk to Animals in 5 Easy Steps." And telepathy within animals is very, very, very prevalent if you're connected to the nature kingdom. I have a cat, Khaleesi, and when it's pitch black here in Norway at night, that's why this video is already a little bit dark. It's only 1 o'clock and the sun's already going down. It'll be pitch black outside and I won't be able to see her, but I will know she's at the doorway and I will just instantly go and I will see that she's there and let her in. So animal telepathy is very, very possible, just as human telepathy is possible. So don't think that this is yet another conspiracy thing. Telepathy is real. It's just like a muscle. It's just like what you call intuition. If you connect to a being or a person, you think about them, suddenly your phone will ring and it'll be them, etc., etc. This is how Diane was able to connect with Adama. Now, Adama began to dictate messages to Diane, and some of his messages were about their connection to the hollow earth, which created an opening for me to receive messages from Mikos, who lives in the city of Catharia. And Catharia makes me think about the Cathars, which were a spiritual group that I used to have a ton of videos on YouTube about, and for some reason YouTube took them down. But the Cathars were a peaceful people who actually ended up being burned alive. It was horrible by a guy called Pope Innocent in the 1200s, and he wasn't very innocent at all. But this happened in the south of France. My husband and I went to one of their last strongholds, which was known as what was the name of it? God, they took that video down too. I'm drawing a blank right now, but it was their last stronghold, Montségur. Sorry, Montségur. So we had that video. We went to the place where these horrible people, inquisitors, burned them alive, and it was actually said that they all stood in a field, all 200 of them, holding hands and smiling as they were all burnt alive. They believed in being selfless, not of material things. They also highly believed in Mary Magdalene and Jesus actually being married, and that was another big lie that Christianity had created, was that Jesus did have a wife. And their main book was known as the Book of Love. Even Led Zeppelin have written songs about this and stuff like that. So do some research into the Cathars, but I found a huge connection to that. So Mikos, who lives in the city of Catharia, located beneath the Aegean Sea, is located inside the hollow earth. Now, those messages from Adama and Mikos were published in 2000 in my second book entitled Telos, The Call Goes Out from the Hollow Earth and the Underground Cities. And sometimes I'm talking as myself here, and sometimes I'm reading Diane's words, so hopefully you don't get too confused. Now, I'm back to being Diane again. After my Telos book, messages from both Adama in Telos and some messages from Mikos was published. I was talking to Adama one day when Mikos got on the line. It was a three-way conference call, if you will. Mikos asked if I would take more messages from him and publish them in another book of messages exclusively from the Hollow Earth, known as Messages from the Hollow Earth, which is the sequel to my Telos book. And that's the book we're reading here today. It contains all the new messages that I have been receiving from Mikos in the 3 years since the Telos publication. It goes down deeper and explores further the cavity of the Earth, illuminating the other civilizations that reside within our hollow planet. Its thrust is to bring you, the reader, to its innermost core, where you can explore at depth the lifestyle and society of another advanced civilization that already reached the ascended state of consciousness that is our human destiny. Now I'm back to Stasha again. I have a side note. Now we all know if in the biblical story that there was a flood. And what many people believe is that when the flood was coming, many of these kind of advanced human beings, we have been DNA genetically manipulated. We do have the Rh positive people, which many people do believe evolved from monkeys. Some of the Rh positive people did not have this extra gene that kind of gave them telepathy and intuition. They were more workers, more, just kind of slaves in a way. But at some point, there was kind of an experiment done on humanity where our DNA was merged with kind of angelic, I won't say alien, but angelic DNA. And that's where many people believe Caucasian people came from, like from the Caucasus Mountains, that normal human beings were infused with this angelic or heavenly DNA. And we were given these extra strands of DNA that allowed us to have intuition and telepathy. So, what I believe and what many other people believe is that when this happened, those with the Rh positive bloodlines were kind of unaware when the flood was coming and they perished. But for those who had been genetically manipulated with this kind of angelic gene, were aware that it was coming and they retreated inside the hollow earth to avoid the flood. Now, what's also known and what many people believe is that there was very dark beings as well, which some would know be called as will call or be known as like reptilian entities. They also were very highly advanced, but more in their minds. They knew the flood was coming too, and many of them also retreated and hid within the hollow earth. And that is why all of humanity was actually not destroyed in the flood. So they knew this flood was coming. They went inside the hollow earth for those who knew about it, and they hid out. They waited for the water to fade, and then eventually they worked their way back up into civilization. This is why many people believe like what they call the Norse aliens or northern aliens. Many of them emerged out of the North Pole once the waters had subsided. And this is where we kind of get Vikings from and people with very pale skin and very blue eyes. This is a characteristic of those who had kind of this extra angelic gene. And many people wonder, like, where did these guys come from? Were they, during the Ice Age, were they just frozen and then reanimated again? So, again, kind of getting off topic, but I believe this is how all of these actual human beings were able to survive the quote unquote flood. And then when things were safe again, they slowly reemerged and kind of worked their way back into society again. That's just the Mama Stash note. Okay, let me get back to the book here, though. Now, over the centuries, our perception and knowledge have greatly expanded regarding the nature of the universe. Modern astronomy has shown our solar system to be just another one in the arms of our Milky Way galaxy, which in turn is just one of the billions of galaxies in this vast and expanding universe. Advent of time and progress of science have broken many myths. And even today, with like the Hubble telescope and all these other telescopes, NASA is, as much as I don't trust NASA, they are proving that there are billions and billions of other galaxies, that we are definitely not the only universe. So now is the time for breaking yet another myth and this myth is that we live in a solid Earth. And there's a great image here. I believe I have this in my book also in Diary of an Asset. And it's kind of a map of the hollow earth. And this map was actually done by a man called Max Fifield from Denmark. I can't remember the dating of this, but it refers to kind of all the places above the land and then where the different cities inner Earth are located. It even references Admiral Byrd's flight in 1947, which I talked about in my book, Diary of an Asset. So this had to be done after 1947. Just can't find the date here, but I'll put a screenshot. I'll stop the video real quick and show you guys a screenshot of this image. Okay, so let's see how much I've been talking. 20 minutes. Okay, I won't make this too long. I'll probably have to do a second part of this as well. But I'll get right to the first part, which is called Explanation of our Hollow Earth. Now, not just our Earth, but all planets are hollow. Planets are formed by hot gases thrown from a sun into an orbit, and the shell of planets is created by gravity and centrifugal forces, and the poles remain open and lead to a hollow interior. This process forms a hollow sphere with an inner sun, smoky in color, which gives off soft and pleasant full spectrum sunlight, making the inside surface highly conductive to growth of vegetation and human life, with only a long, long day and no nights. And it's kind of funny because I do think science kind of tried to trick us and or give us a little hint because they talk about the core of the earth being like lava, hot, central burning ball. Well, this kind of refers to that. If there's a central sun, then that talks a lot about the molten core of the earth. Now, the hollow earth beings are very spiritually evolved and technologically advanced and live inside the interior core of our hollow earth. These advanced civilizations live in peace and brotherhood in the center of our earth, which contains an inner central sun, with oceans and mountains still in their pristine state. The hollow earth cavity is still in its pristine state because they don't walk or build upon their land. Like humans, we're just constantly building, we do industrial things, we're ruining the surface of planet Earth or of Mother Earth. Now, in the inner Earth, there are no buildings, there are no shopping malls, and there are no highways. They travel in electromagnetic vehicles that levitate a few inches above the ground. Now, this makes me think about Nikola Tesla and all of the inventions he was making about electromagnetic vehicles. And I believe that's why his research was stolen by Edison, sold to GE, and he ended up just being totally laughed off. Nobody believed his research. He died alone, sad and broke, because he was onto something. You know, imagine how much money is made off of the gas and petrol industry and the oil industry. If we could travel via electromagnetic waves, imagine how much power we could save and what a wonderful green carbon footprint we could put on this planet. Industry make way too much money off of these secrets, so they keep them hidden. Now back to the inner earth beings. They walk along streams, rivers, and oceans, and they climb mountains. But that's the extent of their foot contact with the ground. They leave the rest of their land to nature because it is nature's land too. The governing city within the hollow earth is called Shambhala. It is located inside the very center of the planet and can be accessed through the holes at either the north or the south pole. The northern and southern lights that we see in our skies are actually reflections from hollow Earth's inner central sun, which emanates from her hollow core. And I live here in Norway. I've seen the northern lights, and it makes you wonder. Now, they use free energy to light up their cities, homes, and tunnels. They use crystals coupled with electromagnetism, which generates a small sun with full spectrum lighting that lasts for 500,000 years and gives them all the power they need. This is probably where we were got the idea for solar paneling and things like this. It probably was kind of telepathically passed on to some people. Now, the Earth's crust is approximately 800 miles from the outer to the inner surface. Because our Earth is hollow and not a solid sphere, the center of gravity is not the center of the Earth, but in the center of the crust, which is 400 miles below the surface. And this is why many researchers, explorers, and scientists can't get down there because 800 miles is really far. They don't have drilling technologies to go down that far. So a lot of science, or technically, is just speculation. Now, the source of Earth's magnetic field has been a mystery. The inner sun at the center of the Earth is the mysterious power source behind the Earth's magnetic field. There are entry caverns all over the Earth where interactions can take place. Only some of them are currently open. Nikola Tesla, and I hadn't even gotten this far. I knew Nikola would come into this. Nikola Tesla, the genius inventor of electrical technology, is now living inside the hollow earth. So maybe he faked his death. He began to receive the information in the later part of the 1800s and discovered that electric power is everywhere present in unlimited quantities and can drive the world's machinery without the need of coal, oil, gas, or any other of the common fuels. Now, wow, I read this book back in 2012. This is the second time I'm revisiting it in 9 years, and I just intuitively thought about the Tesla thing. I can't believe that's actually in chapter 1. That's crazy. Confirmation. Now, in the 1930s, the tunnel entrances and passageways were closed off by the Hollow Earth civilizations because corporations at that time were misusing Tesla's technology to gain entrance into the inner Earth. The Hollow Earth's two main portals are at the holes at the poles, which were closed off in the year 2000 because our governments were setting detonations at the poles to blow open entrances into their world. And do you know that it is actually illegal for any plane or aircraft to fly over either the North or the South Pole? Don't you think that's kind of strange? Now, they have installed a magnetic force field around Earth's polar openings to further camouflage the entrances. This way, the openings are protected from air and land sightings. Like I said, the pilots are not allowed to fly over the poles. Now, in the past, there were entrances to the Library of Porthologos on the surface. One such entrance was at the Library of Alexandria, which of course was destroyed by fire in 642 AD. You see the theme here? They're really just trying to stop us from the truth. Now, there is more land mass inside, 3/4 land and 1/4 water, and the land is more condensed than ours. Everything in the hollow earth is very carefully maintained to balance the ecological system of all life forms that reside there. There are several million Catharians currently residing in the hollow earth. There are Catharians who have incarnated as humans on the surface. So that brings me back to my Cathar theory. They probably incarnated as humans to try to bring these messages of the Book of Love. That's why 200 people, men, women, and children, could stand in a field being burned alive and all hold hands and smile while they were being burned alive. What human being wouldn't suffer and scream if they were burned at the stake, or not the stake, but burned alive? So that tells you they were they had advanced spirits. Now, there are also Catharians who live on the planet Jupiter. The tallest Catharian is 23 feet tall. There are 36,000 regular humans from our surface who now live inside the Earth. Over the last 200 years, approximately 50 surface humans went inside to live. And over the past 20 years, only 8 have gone inside to live. So that is very interesting. There's also an image here, a drawing here of Adama. So that brings us to page 18. I'm just about 30 minutes. I don't want to bore everybody, and I don't like to make the longest YouTube videos because I like to keep people interested. But I have more of Diane's book to share with you. I'm also going to share this with you, Diane. I hope that your research from 20 years ago can help reawaken some people's thoughts and ideas. I even think some scientists might enjoy this video because, we can't believe everything we read in textbooks. We can't believe everything that's been controlled by governments and corporations and higher powers. We have to realize that there's a bigger purpose to being here on this planet. That's why the Mandela effect interests me. That's why other science, spiritual topics interest me. There's so much more going on that we just can't even imagine. I have noticed an uprise in science fiction movies and movies about cloning and movies about different topics that it does seem to be that Hollywood and other independent film companies are kind of trying to give us little clues, but if they just came on the nightly news and told us, hey, by the way, the Earth's hollow and people have been living there for years, it's going to freak out humanity. Humanity's already divided since 2016 when Trump was elected. I can't believe that it's been 3 years and people are still fighting about him. I'm from California and I live in Norway now, but every time I go home to California, I cannot flip a channel without hearing Trump still being bashed. It's like, come on, guys, get over it. Even if everybody hates this guy and he did everything wrong, it's just crazy the obsession with division in America. And I'm just using Trump as a small example, but it's like America is already so divided, the world is already so divided that if science came out with truths like this, people would just freak out. So maybe it takes little people like me and like Diane to just kind of plant little seeds. And for those of you that maybe have this kind of angelic DNA hidden deep within your genetic code, maybe you can kind of be the new way showers and whistleblowers and slowly start sharing this information with everybody. I'm not profiting anything off of sharing this video. I'm just trying to help bring some knowledge and help Diane out a little bit. So it's a topic you guys have asked me to cover for a very long time. I'm sorry my videos are so sporadic right now. Just know that life happens and I can only come when I have something really important to share. I will come back when the time is right and continue part 2 of this video. I don't have Diane's full book. I have just a couple chapters, so I'm going to contact her and see if I can get a full copy because it's like 23 some chapters and they're, from what I've read, it's very, very, very interesting stuff. And again, once I'm done with this kind of side of things, I will share with you guys the history of the Hitler-Nazi connection to the inner Earth. And most of his stuff has to do with the South Pole. It's a little darker. I like to keep things light on my channel. So sending you all so much peace and love. Oh, if you haven't been to my Etsy shop lately, it is going crazy. I've been making all these beautiful sage bundles. I've just been channeling them from nature. I'm making these amazing holy waters. This is actually holy water, holy oil from the River Jordan. It looks really foamy because it's from the rushing rivers of the River Jordan. And inside, there's actually a clear quartz point. Well, I shouldn't have shook it up. Eventually it settles and the foam kind of goes up to the top. But there's clear quartz crystals in here. I've got tons and tons of dried bay leaves. If you don't know about bay leaves, do some research. You can keep them around your home. You can burn them. Also got a bunch of new crystals, crazy nice healing crystals that are being mined here in Norway in my backyard. Norway has an abundance of minerals just barely beneath the surface because again, with the ice age, everything kind of got frozen, and then as things thaw, I just go out in my backyard, which is actually, there's a huge boulder there, and you just dig around it, and you find crystal, you find quartz, you find flint, all kinds of stuff. So check out my Etsy shop. I'll put the link in the description box below. I have a coupon right now. The coupon code is fall 2019, all one word in caps, and you can receive 30% off any products I make, any readings that I do. I do all kinds of stuff. So check me out if you're interested. Sending so much love and peace fra Norge og ha det bra, which means love and peace from Norway, and goodbye.